desk.
Thank you, gentlemen. That game, solid win there for Gravity, you know, shoring up a lot of the weaknesses that we had pointed out in after their previous matches here, specifically in their shot calling and their initiative here in this one. I don't feel like they ever hit a point in the game where they were unsure of what to do next.
Yeah, I really like looking at Gravity now as opposed to even last split. The shot calling difference is before they were always taking risks. They were always like, we should fight right now. And now Gravity, with Move on the roster, they have so much vision, and it's more of a reserved shot calling that kind of resembles what Korean teams do at the higher level, where they're warding up, they're making decisions based on all the information they have and the information they're denying from their opponents, and then they're like, okay, this is safe to do, that is safe to do, and it pretty much puts the opponent in a lose-lose situation. And that's what Gravity's doing on a smaller level, and I really like that from them. They need to go further with that.
And also, the Jarvan pickup for Move was very interesting because it's somewhat unexpected. And when we talked about earlier in the day, the idea that a team could pinch junglers, well, when you have Jarvan in your back pocket, that becomes a lot less useful of a strategy for Team Liquid.
Exactly, that was the goal. As you said, we talked about it earlier in the day. Maybe you give up Rise because you pinch something else, and clearly they could not keep Move down. This was one game, but like the ganks worked. He did very well. He got a sight stone. Move, to me, was the MVP of this game. Everything happened because of him. Mid lane advantage because he blew the flash and Cassiopeia at like level 3. All the counter ganks and wonderful things to get the Rise in ahead. Like all bunch of wonderful things to say. And this is now, like, to me, probably like the best, at this time, looks like the best mid-season acquisition in the NALCS. Move has done so much now for Gravity. And the fact that we now have Bunny Fufu taking over shot calling, he's learning really quickly. It's still a small sample size. So you can't say for sure like just how good Bunny Fufu's shot calling is, but the fact is Move's getting his team ahead, and Bunny's leading this team to victory very well right now. You mentioned initiative earlier on as we were talking, and you know, they actually went for inhib turret kills. We see so many teams will shy away from that and wait 2 Barons and 3 Dragons later for they actually crack the base, but Gravity's pushing in, taking a lot of advantages, and they're not shying away from fights that are very high percentage.
And a lot of this is coming from that supportive play style that you talk about here in Move. He didn't build a single damage item that game. It's simply Cinder Hulk into Sightstone into, you know, the tanky front line, and then on top of that, we saw every effort made to not take a kill. And that, I think, is kind of that next step, that little micro thing that they do here, which put Haunter so far ahead. You know, now we're on the topic of Haunter, Rise. We have to discuss it because...
Do we?
We do.
We really have to talk.
I am declaring that we're going to discuss it because Rise falls over to the red side here. And I think that's one of the more important things to note is that something that was initially looked at as a must-ban for the red side team, it falls into the hands of Gravity here and pays off dividends.
And it's really impressive as you watch this clip out, like, Quas plays this about as well as possible. He actually body blocks as many Qs as, you know, humanly or treely possible here in this matchup, and yet still, okay, fine, I just won't kill the Vayne. I'll just kill the tank anyway, who, like, what Spectre's
and then the ulti's back up.
Yeah, and then Flash Condemn, and then, yeah, exactly, as Irene just said, the fact that when your passive procs, you can cool down your ulti so that it is up again by the time the first one runs out.
Yep.
It's just an incredible amount of damage. So,
and the root is a 600 range point and click, and most AD carries are below 600 range. I think there's only about 4 or 5 that actually go above that.
Yeah.
So Rise just always has accessibility to AD carries, and I think he's absurdly powerful right now. And Jat was talking about him possibly being nerfed next patch. Honestly, I have no idea. Looking at PBE, I don't
think it's in the 511 notes.
See anything coming out for him.
I think there's plans for 512, but that's kind of what we're looking at.
Hopefully something comes out with the counter pick. We saw Huni play.
Yeah, Huni played Cho'Gath. And I actually do like that. And the thing is, it's funny because we're seeing Rise kind of interact with the way we initially saw top lane Hecarim get interacted with. First top laner we saw in a long time that didn't run Flash. We're like, okay, yeah, range matches are good because it's hard for Hecarim to close the gap. And it was like, okay, if you gank him once early on, he gets behind, and then he gets punished. And so you're like, all right, this team's going to first pick Rek'Sai. We're going to bait the Rise. We're going to punish it. He's fairly immobile. It's going to work. And then Move just like outplays every single gank. And, you know, maybe if Move weren't quite as good, that would have worked. And it would have been the genius plan where they baited the Rise pick and the Rek'Sai Maokai with unlock was going to be wonderful. But the problem is it's such a snowbally matchup, right? We've even seen Huni like go down 3 kills and still get one-on-one. So like, as much as people seem to be baiting this pick, it looks like right now Rise is just simply too good to even play around.
Yeah, on the flip side of the matchup, we look at Team Liquid, and it was mentioned prior to the start of the game, the idea that we don't want to read too much into their 3-0 start because they had a fairly easy schedule for their first 3 games. Yeah. They do drop this game to Gravity. cause for concern, or is it just we get behind a little bit early and we don't have the wave clear to deal with the incessant pushing that Gravity now has?
Yeah, no, I think it's honestly, even though leading up to this game, Team Liquid's total opponents scoreline was 1-8, right? 0-3, 0-3, 1-2. Like, okay, they had easy opponents, but no, I think Team Liquid is still a very good team. I think they're still top 4, maybe top 5, since Gravity's so good right now. Team in the North American LCS, they're certainly a playoff contender. Okay, don't give up the Rise, and then don't get out-ganked. And maybe you look at, a much better game. But Move, put this game on his back, and that's what happens when you get an early game lead with Snowball Champions.
Yeah, last season we saw some hiccups with Liquid every now and then where it's like, that champion select was really strange. Like, Peter, what is he doing for a second there? And now I think this is one of those things where it's like, Rise probably should have been a priority, but hindsight's always 20/20.
Right. Team Liquid still looks like Team Liquid. One bad game, okay, but I think they're still solid. Gravity, obviously amazing.
I think exactly that.
Obviously amazing.
Obviously, if you don't see it, what's wrong with you
size.
guys? No, here on the Analyst, I'm making grand sweeping accusations and big statements. Gravity are clearly amazing.
Yeah, sure, great. I do think that they put up a very good showing here and are making a case for themselves being in the top echelon of teams. Switching gears for just a minute, Gravity's support and shot caller Bunny Fufu will be appearing in the newest edition of Drive. Starting on Tuesday, fans can follow Bunny as well as 4 other pros throughout the summer split as they strive to compete at the highest levels of LCS play. Here's an early look at Drive.
I thought it was just going to be some random team news going on. The news was crushing at the time. You don't really realize what you had until it's gone, but I wanted it back and I wanted to do whatever it took to get back to that spot. My name is Michael Carrillo and some people know me as Bunny Fufu.
Be sure to catch the first episode and follow Bunny's journey from the beginning this Tuesday over on lolesports.com. We're going to step away while the teams set up for our next hotly anticipated match between rivals Counterlogic Gaming and Team Solo Mid. We'll be right back.